Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Photo TNT. I am Pete Collins, and this is my good buddy RC Concepcion.
What's going on, everybody?
We are a show about gear, tips, tricks, techniques, and every once in a while we may even throw in a little Photoshop for you. We just want to start out today by saying make sure you go over to KelbyOne and check out Photo TNT over there and leave us comments and questions, because your questions lead to shows like this. This show is coming directly from KelbyOne, and a question that several people had about, okay, I've got an off-camera flash. I've made my purchase. Now what should I buy to help with that? And we're going to get into a little discussion about what we think we should do with the next purchase.
Right, and a lot of it has to do with kind of like your first modifiers, right? It's nice for you to have an off-camera flash. It's great for you to have a flash that goes off of your camera to be able to light it, but you're going to notice that you're going to need to put something on this. So probably two of the biggest things that you'll have for that will be umbrellas versus softboxes. So I have an umbrella. All right, one of the first things that I think is a benefit of the umbrella is, check it out. Whoosh. It's right here. So the fact that it can pack relatively small is a great thing, right? So I'm going to open this up. Right? So this is 36. This is a 36-inch umbrella, and it serves pretty good as an umbrella, right? So this one is from Photix. So this is part of that kit that we talked about an episode or two back, part of their Kelby kit that they have for this. But this is one of the things that they have. So what does the umbrella do? It allows you to be able to have a really compact, really portable, bigger light source. The general premise is the smaller the light source, the further the light source is away, the harsher the light. If you make that light source bigger, from here to here, bigger light source, right? Smaller light source, bigger light source, makes it a lot softer, makes it a lot easier for you to work with. So then we have
Softbox here, yep.
Now,
and not quite as portable, but still very portable, very effective.
Right, this softbox is from Westcott. This is the go-to standard softbox that I use for everything. This guy does not leave my side. It's the 28-inch Apollo softbox, and it operates a lot like an umbrella in that it collapses and recesses as an umbrella, but it's a softbox, right? So it's square, it's baffled, right? And then it has a rod on the inside, and you stick basically your flash inside of it. Now, in this case, that is also a bigger light source, but they behave a little differently. Why don't we do this? Why don't we start with the umbrellas? Let's talk about
the pros and cons of them.
Right. So one of the pros, immediately, it packs in a bag.
Yep.
The second one, they're cheap.
Right.
Right, relatively cheap, easy to be able to just grab. You can get a bunch of them, and if this one flies away, you're totally okay with it. Yep. The other benefit to it is that it covers the widest. It has extremely wide coverage when we're working with this. And Pete, you had a couple of examples that talked a little bit about that.
Right. I've shot weddings, and I love the umbrella for shooting weddings, especially down south. We tend to have a lot of bridesmaids. So if you look at this picture, when your bride has 12 bridesmaids, you really need to have a lot of light coverage to get all the girls in the lineup. So here it is, I have two umbrellas, one on each side. And the great thing about the umbrella is it casts the light all the way across there. It lights up the background and everything in there. So I love that when you're having to deal with large crowds. It really is a go-to modifier.
Okay.
Soft light, but it covers a lot.
Now, is there a consideration? Is there something that you'd have to consider when you're working with this?
Yep, there is a downside, because what happens is, I'm going to steal this from you, when the light goes in, light travels all over in a sphere, in a sense. When it comes in, it hits this, and most of the light comes through here, but some bounces out here, goes here. It lights up everywhere. It's both a blessing and a curse. So if you look at the next shot, this was just a setup, but I wanted to show you what's happening as I'm getting set up. Notice the light is not only lighting them, but it's lighting the flowers and the chairs and the walls behind it. Right. And that can be an issue that I wouldn't want to light all that stuff up, because the story is up front. That's where I'd really rather have a softbox than an umbrella. Right. The plus about it in some situations makes it a negative in other situations.
Right. So relatively cheap.
Yep.
Relatively easy to be able to replace. Extremely portable. Right. This is one of those things where it's like, if I'm traveling on location and I just have a rollerboard, you could throw a couple of these in. Yep. You can throw a couple of the 28-inch softboxes It just doesn't fit widthwise, which means that I would have to have either a bigger rollerboard or I'd have to pack a second bag with just that. This, immediately there. Another probably con to this would be when these are out on location and you have this on location, this is pretty much a sail.
Yep.
Right? Any slight amount of wind is going to take this out. So you almost always have to have this with a sandbag or something that's going to hold down this kit. That's why the Photix kit included this sandbag. I thought it was a great idea.
Yep.
You know you're going to need it. It's going to blow this all over the place. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this.
I also wanted to say another positive. You can get umbrellas that are both a shoot through. In other words, you put the flash here and it shoots through and lights up this side, or they can also be a reflective. Sometimes they have a kit where you put the flash and it shoots in here and bounces back this way. That's both a positive and negative. Sometimes when you set this up, you got to watch out for this thing too. I've had many a time where I'm shooting and I end up stabbing myself with the umbrella. It's just a little thing, but you always got to be aware the umbrella can get a little clunky sometimes.
So it's a great start. It produces great portrait work, but you have to keep in mind that a lot of that light is going all over the place. Let me just show you something here real quick, because I think it's a good example for that. We'll go ahead and I'm going to try not to start every single application in the process, but this is what we were showing in the kit that we did before, right? So a bare flash would kind of look something like this. A bare flash by itself had that kind of harshness, but once you put in an umbrella, a lot nicer. If you want to see the full set of all of these pictures, go to the Photix review that we did for the entire kit, obviously, but here's another great example of what that flash does.
This is a perfect example of what's going on. That flash hits the umbrella and it lights up Eric great, but you see that whole swath of light going up on the wall there. That could be an interesting visual item there, but it may be distracting. So depending on your environment, you may or may not want to have that.
You might want to just kind of keep that in mind. Now, when we come back from break, we'll talk a little bit about a softbox and the benefits of a softbox. Take a look. Welcome back to Photography Tips and Tricks, your show for gear tips, inspiration, RC. Here I'm here with Mr. Pete Collins. Pete, we've already talked a little bit about umbrellas.
Yep.
The pros and the cons of it. So what's left?
Well, the other one that you're going to look at is the softbox.
Okay. So we have a softbox here. This is a 28-inch Apollo. This is the softbox that I travel with almost all the time. It's seen some wear. It's a good softbox. So a portable softbox. So now they have Apollo orbs that you can use, and they have a couple of other different types of modifiers, but generally a small hot shoe softbox is the second thing that you would use. And what's the big benefit of this is light control.
Yep.
Right. So we have here, you were talking about these baffles earlier.
Yeah, the nice thing is you've got your light source here, but because it's recessed into here a little bit, these act as almost like barn doors, if you know, stage and all that stuff. This is going to block the light from spilling out this way.
Right.
So it's very much a focused light this way, and it's going to protect all the rest of the environment.
Right.
So only this one section is going to be lit.
Now, even if you didn't have a recessed section, right, if you used a softbox that didn't have it, the nature of just having a softbox control the light and having it shelled, you know, top, bottom, left, and right, means that light isn't spilling everywhere. It's very, very directional. So here's a great example of that. We did those those pictures that we had done with Eric, and here we have the top one, or this one, the one on the left, shows that there's light that's going all over the place in this one section. However, using a softbox, a lot of that light is controlled inside of one area, right? You don't see a lot of that fall off in those opposite areas. Now, they both produce great pictures, right? If you take a look here, they're both equally as soft, right? This is a nice picture of Eric. This is a nice picture of Eric. And we just moved the softbox, like we had an umbrella on one side, softbox on another, just so it made it easier for us to shoot. But you'll notice that in the softbox, when you're looking inside of the softbox, there is a certain amount of shadow that sits in this one area. So when you see that kind of shadow, it's because you have a lot of that kind of light control. Now, where that wouldn't be good is if you have to get a bunch of different people lit. When you have to light a whole bunch of different people, then you're going to need a lot of spread. You want to be able to shoot a lot of that light. If you're using portraits, right, you're making a portrait of a person, and you're not going to see background, and you're not going to see side, and you have a good amount of distance, an umbrella could be good. So this can control the light, but it also does have limitations. One of the biggest limitations that I think that it has is a lot of it has to do with this light. Not this light specifically, but just with a light. This light is going to need to go inside of the softbox. The moment that it goes inside of the softbox, you need a way to be able to trigger that usually isn't line of sight. Right? Most Canon systems or Nikon systems have a line of sight triggering. So in this case, it's not going to be within line of sight. That means that you have to have a trigger. The Photix has a built-in trigger, which I think is pretty cool, can be controlled remotely, but it's something that you need to consider. The second thing from there would be probably also size. Right? That cannot be packed into a small roller board. It cannot be collapsed. So that means that you're packing a second bag or you're carrying a roller in order to be able to carry that around. Let's see, another downside to it would be, well, it's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit bulkier.
And it tends to be a little bit more pricier.
And it tends to be a little bit more pricier.
Yep.
So, but if you wanted to kind of step up in the control, you could always just start with an umbrella and then move your way up into a softbox. Softboxes are great to do that. I wanted to show you what you can do, the capabilities of what you can do with softboxes, right? I was out in Dubai teaching at Gulf Photo, and I was playing with the Fuji X-T1. And we were like, well, let's see if we can make some portraits of the Photix people and the Fuji people. I was there. I was like, why not? So we went into like a utility closet. And inside of the utility closet, I mean, it was so bad. We had like...
You had to use a fisheye just to capture it.
Yeah, to capture all the spots. So we just have this one board, right? And now I have one softbox, right? This is their beauty dish, and then a strip with a grid, right? So just two lights, greater control, a little bit of light here on the shoulder, a little bit of light on the face, and we're able to get one portrait. I'll go ahead and zoom that in here so you can see. One portrait, two portraits, three portraits, four portraits.
That's great. And those
look at the level of detail. Look, I know.
Those
I gotta geek out. Look. Look at that.
Those would be amazingly different photos if you were using umbrellas versus the softbox.
Absolutely.
Because it would affect the background. The environment would be lit up. That back wall would not be dark. It would be light because of the light spill. So you're always needing to think about what kind of environment you're needing to use and which modifier is going to be better for that. If your subject is near to the background, do you want to show that background or do you want to hide it? That will help you decide which one you're going to use.
But the bigger the light source, the softer it gets. So in these instances, right, if you want some spill to get into that background, your umbrella is going to give you a great shot for that, and it's going to be a great versatile start. So in my recommendation, I would start with an umbrella, start with a stand. Like they have that entire kit we were talking about in the last episode. Start with an umbrella. Then work your way up as you need it. You'll find that you can finesse it and finagle it, find out where you are with that, master that, and then move on. But there is a subsection of all of this stuff. You'll also find that as you start, you also have these little utility things. Now you use a lot your LumaQuest. Now this takes the light and makes it just a little bit bigger.
Yeah, what it does is it's a mini softbox. And it just throws it out, it softens it up a little bit, but it still gives you kind of that punchy, hard edge, but it's not quite as bam, in your face, deer in headlights. And I just love these as portable go-to options that I carry around. Plus, depending on what I'm shooting, I want a little bit harder edge, but still a little bit of softness, if that makes sense.
All right, so it just makes it a tad bit bigger. I saw this one here, so I'm just gonna, I thought you were gonna keep going. So.
Well, I was actually gonna say, if you come over to the computer, this was a shot I did with one of my sons where I took two of these, just set them up, two different light stands, and I've got one coming as my main light from the right side and a secondary light from the left side. And you can see it lights them up, but it's still got a hard edge to it. And I wouldn't necessarily use this if I was doing a soft portrait on a female or whatever, but this is a great one to be able to throw in my bag if I need a little softening. I'm just gonna go right there and throw that on. I love these things. I've got a couple of them that go with me everywhere.
I'm sorry, I'm just apologizing. I'm like, I put theirs on and I noticed that it has like this baffle and I'm like sitting here opening and closing it. So, but anyway, small utility things. You'll see stuff like this. This just makes it a little bit bigger. Now we also have some of the Rogue modifiers, right? So these will also take these lights and make them either bigger longer or kind of bounce light on these. So you'll see most of this stuff. This is also probably something that you start with to kind of create accent lights and things like that. This entire kit has, grids and different colored gels, and you can make the light a little bit bigger than your normal flash. So they give you kind of a good start on how to be able to take the light from a little bit to a little bit bigger. Then something like this would make it a little bit bigger still. Then after that, you get really big with the umbrella, and then you kind of finesse down with something like a softbox.
Well, you could think about it sort of like being a cook. Maybe the first thing you're going to get is a big frying pan, which would be the umbrella, and then these become ways that you can add a little more garnish and other things to it. You start developing and become a chef, and these are the tools that you use to become a light chef, in a sense.
Pete's going to keep these up. Keep them up there for a second. Keep them up there for a second, because there are a couple of things that we want to talk about while we're doing this. So the first thing is, guys, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for watching throughout the entire season. These are going to come useful in 2 seconds. You're going to love it. But before we do any of that stuff, what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at the website to watch. The website to watch is our buddy Eric Vallon. EricVallon.com. There's a reason we were using him inside of these examples, right? He's a great photographer originally out of Tampa, now inside of New York, and we miss you very much. Go take a look at his photography. He's got some wonderful photography over at EricVallon.com. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was the PeachPit ebook deal. If you go to PeachPit.com/KelbyOne, enter in the code KelbyOne, you're going to get 40% off an ebook. It's going to be a great ebook. It's going to be 40% off. All you have to do is go to PeachPit.com/KelbyOne, enter in the code KelbyOne. The last thing, at the KelbyOne.com/contest section, you can put in photography tips and tricks, name, email, website, leave us a comment. Guys, tell us whatever it is that you want to be able to see next season. We want to be able to hear from you. This is your show. To that end, leave us a comment in this one section of something that we can solve for you, and you guys are going to win the Rogue Flash Kit. That'll get you started with anything that you have to do with small light photography, as well as...
But wait, Johnny, there's more.
An entire Photix kit. So let's go ahead and spin it around to the front here. So we talked about this. We have a transmitter, we have a trigger, we have a softbox, the small softbox, we have a shoot-through umbrella, we have a stand, we have a sandbag, we have a light stand, and we have a gear bag. The entire kit, you're gonna have to tell us whether or not you're Canon or Nikon, and we'll send you one of these. So a giant kit from our friends over at Photix.
I want this.
I know, right? So here, if you want to see more about that, just go to Photix.com/KelbyOne. That's the kit that we're doing there, Photix.com/KelbyOne, and that's the entire package kit that they have there. And you could take a look at also the Rogue by going to expoimaging.com. That's Rogue. That's the Photix set.
That's awesome.
That gives them a lot of stuff.
Man.
And it's a great way to end the season here at Photography Tips and Tricks. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much, Pete Collins, for rounding this out.
A great season.
And we will see you guys next season. Take care.
Bye, guys.